Good morning, OHS. Today is Monday, November 22nd. It's 8A. I'm Chris Cody, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Jeff Thompson.
Good morning, Bucks. Coming up on today's show, we discuss ski club paperwork, upcoming club meetings, and Buccaneer sports. We will also get to know our new school worker, Mrs. Chirello, a bit better. But before we get on with today's announcements, let's head over to David for a look at today's weather.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, Bucks. I'm David, maintaining homeostasis as always. Taking a look at today's weather, there will be a high of 45 with a low of 29 and a 90% chance of precipitation. Stepping aside to let you take a look at your 5-day, it will be colder and snowier this week, especially around Thanksgiving, which actually leads me into my next segment that I put together just for you. We're going to take a look at the travel outlook for those traveling this Thanksgiving. And we're going to start with our own little pocket of the United States, the Northeast. As said before, it will be relatively cold and snowy, but it shouldn't be anything too bad, and there will be some excess moisture making its way in along Long Island. For those of you who are going to head down south this Thanksgiving, it shouldn't be too bad. It'll be relatively mild and dry. The biggest threat to your trip is not going to be the weather, it's actually going to be the crocodiles. For the Midwest, it's going to be a mix of ice and snow. You shouldn't encounter too much down there. The biggest danger to you there is actually going to be the state of Ohio. Stay away from Ohio. I know they're planning something. Next up, for the souls heading off to the West Coast, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. California will be a little bit wet, while Nevada and Utah will be snowy, but the rest of the West should remain relatively dry. Now we're going to move on to the two states that nobody seems to remember we have. It'll be cold and dry in Alaska, while in Hawaii there will be pleasant temperatures and possible excess humidity. Now, because I know so many of you are going to be going there this Thanksgiving, we're going to check out the weather in the small island nation of Kiribati that I know all of you have definitely heard of. The temperatures will be in the 80s with some excess precipitation, but it'll be very nice in general, so enjoy it while you can. Now, for our final destination, we're going to be taking a look at the most sought after and exotic travel destination of all time, Mars. It's going to be cold and dry with a high of negative 149 and a low of negative 178 with heavy dust storms. One might say it's out of this world. That was a terrible joke. I'm never saying that again. Okay, those are all the destinations I'll be covering for you today. Wishing good luck and good travel to all the Bucks. Now that I've successfully managed to waste at least 2 minutes, let's go check over on Chris and Jeff and see if they're still awake.
Chris.
Oh, jeez. What?
We got to do the announcements.
How long was I out for?
I don't know how to count.
Oh, jeez. That's great.
Now let's see what's going around in OHS in today's announcements.
Anyone interested in joining ski clubs should pick up paperwork from Mrs. Gills in room 273. The paperwork and payment to Labrador Mountain is due tomorrow. There was also a message sent through Parent Square that has all the paperwork if you want to print it out at home. Just a reminder that Fitness Club will meet tomorrow at 2:30 in the gym. Now let's check in with Jeff for the rest of today's announcements.
Thanks, Chris. Technology Club will meet tomorrow at 2:30 in room 130. Last week, members of the OHS Agriculture Club greeted a sheep from the DeConte farm. Students learned about the many uses of wool from sheep and how to care for them. If you are interested in joining the club, meetings are on Mondays after school. That's all for today's announcements. Now let's check back into David for a look at today's sports.
Thanks, Jeff. Today at 3:30, the boys and girls bowling teams take on CNS at Lighthouse Lanes. And tomorrow, the boys basketball team scrimmages Hannibal at 5:30, while the boys hockey team travels to Beeville for the 5:30 game. That's all for your sports. As many of you walked around the halls, you may have noticed some new faces. Grace, Beatrice, and Trent continue their series getting to know new staff. Today they met up with Mrs. Chirello, one of the new social workers here at OHS. Let's go take a look.
Thank you, guys. I'm here today with Mrs. Chirello. I have a couple questions to ask you, and the first one is going to be, what influenced you to become a social worker?
There's a long answer and a short answer to that. I've always loved students. My job prior to this was working with a bunch of high school students from all different districts in Syracuse. I was a youth director there for about 5 years.
What are some roles you play in this school?
Lots of them. I wear many hats. This year has been a kind of a whirlwind. I think a lot of students and staff can relate to that, but I help in many crisis situations. I help with students that might be struggling with anxiety.
What do you most enjoy about your job this far?
Meeting you guys. I mean, it's been awesome to kind of recognize students in the hallway. get to know people just in passing because I want to be able to know people's names. So that's probably the best thing so far, and just being able to build relationships.
That's all we have for the show today. Thank you, Bucks.